Hello and welcome to day one of the 10 Days to Paid Upwork Challenge. I'm Erica Nall. I'm a top 1% freelancer on Upwork out of more than 18 million other freelancers. And I help beginners get started in freelancing, even if you think you have no skills to offer. This is the beginning. Every week I provide a weekly training for free. And this is week 3. If you've missed the prior trainings, you can catch them in my free beginner community. There will be a link down below where you can join. What we're getting ready to kick off are going to be 10 consecutive days of trainings where I'm going to take your hand and I'm going to walk you through step by step, give you every resource, every tool, every prompt. You're going to know exactly what to do to get you on the fastest path to land your very first paying client and your first 5-star review. So if you haven't joined the beginner community yet, I would love to see you inside. We have a free group chat, as well as I said, every week there's a free resource or a free training to help you get started totally for free. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so that we can get started. And I did want to mention, if you happen to be listening to this on one of the podcasts, I've set this up. The free community is through Substack, and Substack has podcast capability built in that then distributes it to other networks. So while I try and narrate this as best I can, I do think that there's a lot of things that you can listen to and learn. But this 10-day challenge in particular is going to be very hands-on with a lot of screen sharing and walking you through step by step. So if you're listening to this and you're interested in freelancing, the best thing for you to do is going to be to hop into the Substack community where you can follow along with the videos and watch this walkthrough as I do it. So with that, I've got a document pulled up here. This is my behind the scenes document, but what you see in here is going to be very similar to what's going to come through in the written tutorial. So whenever I provide trainings, I always give you guys a video walkthrough as well as a written, so that way, depending on how you learn, you have options. So I'm going to use this as my guide. It may change a bit by the time it hits your inbox on Tuesday, but we're going to go ahead and get into it. So for today, what we're going to do for day one of the challenge is we're going to stand up your Upwork profile, and we are going to get what I call your minimum viable profile. Sorry, we're going to set up your Upwork account. So we're going to get you signed up on Upwork, and then we're going to stand up what I call our minimum viable profile. So this is where a lot of people, when they first get started, they one, will overthink it. Two, they'll get stuck in busy work trying to perfect their profile and do a lot of things that you don't need to do. So I'm going to show you how to move through this process quickly so that we can get you up and going with a profile that's good enough to start landing clients without you trying to do all of the things. Because when you're a beginner, you don't need to have a portfolio. You don't need to do project listings. You don't need to go through 50 different iterations of writing out your profile. Okay. All of that's busy work. It's not worth it. So I have created AI prompts for you. You've got all the tools. It's going to be very fun. So we're going to start off with setting up an Upwork profile. One thing I want to mention with this, as we go through and do this Upwork profile, let me pull this over onto our screen, is that tomorrow, the training is going to be on Upwork one-on-one, because once you're inside and we're getting things set up, before I set you loose and have you start applying for jobs, I want to make sure that you know things like how to look for scammers, what sort of things do you need to, like, what sort of rules on Upwork do we need to do to keep you out of trouble on Upwork. So one really important detail with Upwork is you can only have one account, okay? And so if you have an old Upwork account, you're going to want to try and go resurrect that rather than set up a new one. But for most of you, you won't have an Upwork account yet. And so I'm going to go through and walk you through this. But with my account being an established one, I wanted to be able to give you guys kind of like an authentic walkthrough of a brand new profile, and to be able to prove to you that even as a beginner without any stats or creds like my profile has, how a beginner profile can apply and land jobs. So what I did, I have a college age kiddo. He is 22. If you watch some of my other videos, he is a very talented artist and graphic designer, but he also has really chronic ADHD, and he as he was wrapping up his graphic design degree, he came to me and said, like, I don't want to sit at a desk. I don't want to do deadline work. I'm not good at work where I have to get something done over the course of multiple days or even weeks. And at the time when he was going to college, he was working at Target at the time. And he was like, I know it sounds stupid. He's like, but I really enjoy just like doing the stock work. And he's like, because it's just on my feet and it's repetitive and it's like easy. I get like a dopamine hit from it. So he's now a team leader at Starbucks through Target. But he and I have been talking about him. He is struggling, just like a lot of people are. Even though he works full time, he's struggling to be able to afford life. So we actually rented our house to him. Again, if you haven't watched the other videos, I'm a full-time RVer. Me and my husband are digital nomads now. So we rented our house to him and his friends so that way they can afford life, basically. So we've talked about him trying freelancing just as a side hustle, basically, because he knows that that's not really what he wants to do long term, but he has skills in it. And so he could use it to make some extra money. So what I had him do was he stood up his Upwork account, but I had him stop before he started going through the wizard to actually set up all the details. So that's what I'm going to do with you today, just so that way, because I was going to go through with him and do the same thing with him to show him here's what to do, here's what to put in here. So instead, he's allowing me to walk you through on his account. And so I'm going to use him for the whole 10 days to paid challenge. And he'll be, working through this with me as well. But that way, as I record these, I want you to be able to see from an over the shoulder view of how we're going to set this up. Okay. So I'm going to log into his account here first. So you're going to go to upwork.com. There will be, again, you're going to have in your written instructions as you're following along. I have links and stuff to everything in there. So if you're looking for the link of where you need to go, just go down in the step-by-step instructions and follow that, and it will take you to all the links you need. So you go to Upwork, you're going to sign up for an account. It's pretty basic, email address, password. So I'm going to go ahead and log in as him. And then, whoop, that is not where we're supposed to be. So we're going to log into his account here. And then where you should land when you get in is going to be this wizard. Now, depending on when you're watching this training, Upwork very frequently is updating their UI and their pages. So this might look slightly different, but in general, it should look like this. And especially for those of you watching it now, it should look exactly the same. So you can see they've got 10 screens we're going to go through. And this is going to be really good for me too. Because I wanted to be able to show you guys this, I haven't gone through the slides to even see what it's going to ask. And this is very different from when I originally set up my Upwork profile. So we're going to be learning this together. But so already right off the bat, this is new from when I did it before. I imagine this will help save you quite a bit of time. That if you have an updated current LinkedIn profile or resume, I would go ahead and try that and use it, because it's going to ask you stuff like, what's your work experience? What's your education experience? So it will save you some time if you just go ahead and hit that. But for him, I'm going to go ahead and just fill this out manually. And so it's saying, what kind of work are you here to do? So if you have not yet gone and grabbed my tool for how to find your freelance ready skills. So even if you're like, I have no idea, like my son, he works in retail, right? Like maybe you work in retail and you're like, what the heck am I going to do in Upwork? You need to use that tool and watch that training, and it will help you get a good idea of what is the best fit niche. So these are high level niches, and that tool is going to map you to, it's going to give you, I think, like 3 of your best options here. And then I go through that training and help you figure out how to kind of start to explore that to figure out what you might be interested in. So for him, we're going to do design and creative. And then it says specialties. So again, in that training, we talk about exploring. Eventually, you're going to specialize. When you first start, we are going to be very broad. So you're not going to be specialized. But as you went through that training, you probably took note of some of the things you thought you might be interested in. So right here, I just want you to mark stuff that you think you might be interested in. So he's an artist. He loves doing art. He's also the one that I think he could make a lot of money in and do really well in is branding and logo design. And then he also, I would do, I'm waffling between product design or graphic editorial. We'll do product design. Okay. And the main thing with this is going to show up, one, in your display or on your profile. You can change these anytime. But two, the options that you select here are going to help Upwork's algorithm in knowing when they should serve up your profile to prospective people based on the jobs that they're doing. So when I check this for him, someone who's posting a branding and logo design job, because we selected that option, his profile is going to be more likely to show up within their search. Okay. So we're going to go ahead, we're going to go hit next, and it wants you to add skills. So it already goes ahead and it suggests some skills related to the option that you chose. I'm going to go ahead and say branding, brand development, illustration for sure. And so I want you to put in at least 3 skills, but you can do up to 15. The more that you do, the better. But again, you can update this anytime. So we're not going to overthink it. But if off the top of your head, so for example, like I know that he uses Illustrator. Yeah, Adobe Illustrator. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in. I know he also uses Adobe InDesign. So if you have specific skills like that or specific software related to it, now for some of you that won't be the case, that's totally fine. But for those of you who maybe are already working in a field or already have experience, whether side hustling or otherwise in that field, you probably have specific skills that come to mind. Just start typing them like I did. It'll show you options. You can select them. For now, I'm going to leave this at 5. And then let's go to next. Okay, on this headline for right now, I don't want you spending any time worrying about overthinking what this headline is. Right now, what I want you to do is we're just trying to stand you up, and then I'm going to walk you through, we're going to go through and actually set up your profile for real. So for right now, we're just going to put like graphic artist. Okay. Literally, you can write test. I don't care what it is. Just put something in there. All right. Do you have relevant work experience? Add it here. So I'm going to go ahead and click this just so we can look at this. Okay. So this is looking for, and again, this is new for me because this is different from how it is for. So the part that I'm questioning myself on here is with the work experience. They ask about employment history, but I think that that's different from work experience. So I think that they're looking for, do you have jobs or relevant work experience that you have done specifically related to the niche that you're doing? In his case, he doesn't, that I would list, I don't think. So I'm going to leave that blank and then hit, oh, they want at least 1 item. All right. Well, then we're going to add this. Maybe this is the work. Maybe this is your employment history. So let's do his employment history here. Let me pull this up. Yeah. So once your title, so he was a shift lead and key holder at Licks Deli and Ice Cream. And that was in Evansville in the United States. Yeah, and actually, as I'm looking at this, like right here, I'm still currently in this role. So this is your employment history. So even if it's unrelated to what you're doing now, I want you to put in, if you have 3, I want you to put in at least 3 work experiences. And I'm going to show you with his how we're going to take actually 1 employer and split it into 2 so that way we can get him to his 3. So this was his high school job. I don't have the month. I'm hoping it won't make me do it, but we'll guess if it does. And then, so he was there from 2019 to 2021. This description is optional. We're not going to put that in. It does want a date. So we're just going to make these January to January. If you have your dates, obviously put that in. All right. And then from here, we're going to hit the plus sign. I'm going to put in his second one, which was, he was a team member. This was at Target. Again in Evansville. I'll go ahead and write in Indiana there. And then again, we'll use January. And then that was from 2021, 2022. So he is still at Target, but he has since gone to he manages their Starbucks location within Target. So he's the team leader for the Starbucks. So if you work in a job and you have changed titles or roles, that's a great way to get more than one job listing. I'll explain as we go through this. This will make more sense later as to why I'm telling you to put in 3. And then why I told you to put in at least 3 skills. There's a reason behind this. Okay. So go ahead and put in, if you can, get it to 3 job experiences. So we've got him in here as a team member. We're going to save that. And then I'm going to do one more, which is he is the Starbucks team leader. Again, that's at Target Inc. Evansville, Indiana, United States. And he's been there since, or been doing that since 2022 till this is current. So he's still currently at that role. Now, as far as the descriptions go, again, this is me wanting you to not waste time in getting this initial setup. This work experience, 80% of people hiring you, probably even higher, aren't even looking at this. And I'll show you later with my own profile that like when people search you and pull up your Upwork profile, it doesn't even display. And then only if like you're actually inside of Upwork applying for jobs and people are looking at it, even then it is it's like really buried down, like way down. And the way how Upwork serves up results, it's like it's not even there. So the main benefit of this is going to be, one, their algorithm will use this title and your job history. It will use locations, and it will also use keywords in your descriptions later to potentially match you to prospective jobs or employers on here. So if you have relevant experience in the field that you're in, later it will make sense to fill that out with more detail, more keywords. But for now, we're not going to worry about that. All right, so we've got our 3 there. Next, we go to education. I want you to add in at least 1 education. If you can do 2, that would be great. And so you can just include high school as your one, but any form will work. So I'm going to put in his high school and his college experience here. So we're going to do New Tech Institute, and then high school diploma. Well, all right. Give me a second here. I'm just looking at what our options are. All right, so we just won't put a degree. It probably won't make us do this. We're going to say general. It's still making us pick stuff. Dates attended. So he was there from 2018 to 2021. And again, description, I don't think it's going to force me to put in a degree or a field of study. So if you're doing high school, I would just put in the name of your high school and then your years. We're going to save that. Perfect. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in Ivy Tech, community college. He was, or sorry, this is an associate's of, I think it's an AA. And then this is graphic design. I don't love when when they're trying to force you to, it's not even there. All right, so I'm going to choose the best thing that I can here because his experience here is directly relevant to the field that he will be applying for jobs for on Upwork. I do want to try and map as much of this in here as we can because this will help him get served up on those things. So graphic design is what he majored in, but since they don't have that in here, I'm just going to start typing in keywords. So you saw like I started with a G just to see what came up with the G, and I'm not seeing anything related to graphic design. So then I did D, and then what I was really looking for was design, and you can see hardware design, interactive product, and visual. So I'm going to do visual design. I think that's a pretty good fit. And then he was there from 2021 to 2023. And then this is something later on when we're optimizing his profile, I'll come in here, or actually he'll come in here, and I'll have him optimize that with SEO related phrases. Okay, so now we've got 2. Again, I want you to put in at least 1, but if you can do 2, that'd be great. All right, next we're going to add in languages. So English is mine, and then if that is your first language, you're going to put native. Okay. And then if you speak more than 1 language, definitely list those, and you can see what your options are. Do you have a basic understanding? Is it conversational? Are you fluent, or is it native? And then you can see bilingual. So like if you truly are bilingual, that you can hold full great conversations, even if it's a second language, like let's say you're totally bilingual in Spanish, select that bilingual rather than fluent, so that way it will help you, especially if you're interested in doing any of the translation work. There's a lot of translation work on Upwork. That's a really good, easy niche for someone who is multilingual, that you can do that here. So if you have multiple languages, I took 4 years of Spanish in high school, or this isn't my profile, this is his. He also took Spanish, but I would not consider him really even conversational. So I was gonna say, and for myself, it's been so long, I don't consider myself conversational, so I'm not gonna put that in there. Next, an overview. Okay. So again, they want you, this is where people will spend a lot of time trying to like figure out, what they want to put in here. So you got to put in at least a 1,000 or not 1,000, 100 characters. So I'm just going to say, we're not worrying at all about this, because we're gonna come right in behind it, and we're gonna go right over top of it with what I'm about to show you and how we're gonna set up your minimum viable. So in the meantime, I just want you to put in like, I'm gonna use right here what's already on the screen here, and just do him instead. So I'm a graphic designer, experienced in logo design and branding for small to mid-sized businesses. I use Adobe Illustrator. We're not being fancy, guys. I want you just to hit your 100. It can be gibberish. I don't care. You can write test over and over, but just get that in there. And then next we're going to go set our rate. For the hourly rate, what I want you to do, no matter if you make $8 an hour or you make $800 an hour, if you are a true beginner and you don't have a developed profile on Upwork, I want you to set this rate somewhere between 15 to 25. Okay, that's going to be our starting point. If you make significantly more than that an hour now, and you're like, oh my God, like I don't want to work for $15 or $25 an hour, it is okay. I'm going to show you, you're going to learn how to walk this rate up very fast to surpass what you make now. Okay. But in order to get your foot in the door, in order to land jobs, it is a very crowded market on Upwork. And when you're a beginner, you're at a disadvantage from people who are already established. So we need to take every advantage we can get. So what I want you to do is I want you to set it 15 to 25. But when you do it, I want you to purposely, if in your head you were like, I'm good with 15, then I want you to bump it up to either like 20, 25, because what we're going to do as you're landing some of these beginner jobs is you're going to discount your price. And that's just going to be a way that we're going to create interest and urgency in your application. So if you're thinking that you were, or let's say right now you make $8 an hour and you're like, shoot, I'd be happy to make 10 or 12 on these jobs, right? If that's you, then maybe you put it at more like 15, 16, and then you can discount it down. But I'm going to push you guys hard that I really want whatever you get paid now is not equivalent to what you can make on Upwork or what your work is worth. Your work is worth a lot more. So I don't want you to base what your Upwork rates are going to be on what you make now in your current job. Okay. So for him, what I'm going to do is right now in his current job, he makes like $16 an hour. He easily, with time and experience, doing what he does with branding and graphic design, easily he could be charging $50 to $75 an hour. Now it's going to take, we got to walk it up. And so I'm going to start him off, I think, instead at 25. I think 25 is a fair amount. And then as a beginner, and then what we'll do is we'll discount him down to probably, depending on the job and how competitive the job is, that gives me room to play to discount jobs down to $15, $18 as his starting point. And then we're going to keep walking that rate up. This will also show you what your rate is going to be. So you can see this is a 10% fee that they're taking out. Upwork, that's how they get paid. So you don't pay them until you get paid. So when someone hires you, they're going to take their percentage, almost like a finder's fee out. And that's because they are bringing you the customers to your doorstep, right? They are marketing, they have a national brand, they're bringing people to you. And so you're paying or like tipping them with every job. Your 10%, it depends on the niche that you chose, but they just starting like 5 days ago, they just changed it to where now it used to always be a 10% flat fee. Now it varies from, I think it's like 0% to 15, depending on the niche and the demand and what's happening. And that's just because some areas are very, have a ton of people working in them. And then they have other ones where people are posting jobs and they don't have enough people applying to them. And so they're using this scalable rate in order to meet demand on the platform. So if they have a area where they have people looking for freelancers and there's not enough freelancers for it, they're lowering that rate. And if they have jobs where there's a lot of freelancers in that space, you're going to see a higher rate for it. Okay. So for graphic design, it's at 10%. And then it's showing you, okay, so that's what you will net. That's what you'll get for every hour that you do in graphic design work at that rate. So when we discount his rate later, so let's say we did 15. So at 15, instead, this would be $1.50 that would come off. Okay. And then he would net $13.50 an hour. So next, add your photo and location. All right. So here's the photo. Here's the location. I'm going to pull this off screen because I don't want to share, his address and those details. But what I do want to do, and I'm realizing it wants a phone number. I'm trying to figure out how I want to do that for him. Okay. But what I do want to show you is this photo thing. So one of the things I have inside the training for you guys is when it comes to your photo, it needs to be a headshot, pretty closely cropped on your face, good lighting. And it should look pretty professional. Okay. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go get a photo shoot. But you want to have like a pretty good professional photo. If you don't have one of those handy, and if you have not seen these services out there yet, there are lots of AI headshot services out there. I have played with a lot of them. It's actually a lot of fun. To where what you do is you just need, or maybe you're just self-conscious about your photos. Like there's that too. You just need a handful of good face pictures of you, real face pictures of you. And then you can use AI, these different services, to generate a picture for you. And so one of the newer ones, so ChatGPT just recently came out with an image generator that's pretty decent. Now, it's not made specifically to create headshots, but I do want to show you an example of what I did, just so that way you can kind of see how this might work for you too. So I'm gonna pull this over. So I was going through just like looking for a photo of my kiddo. So this is my kiddo River, and this was a photo that was like taken on a monitor. So like, let's see, yeah, if you can see, it's like, it's got all these like weird little lines on it. He also took this like in front of a ring light, and part of the ring light's down here. So it's like, obviously that is not professional enough to go on here, right? But what I did was I popped that photo into ChatGPT and I said, this photo was taken from a computer screen monitor. It caused the photo to look dull and unclear. Can you clear this photo up, brighten it, and make it look professional like a headshot, please? And then this is what it gave me back. Pretty decent, right? Does it look as his mom? I know him and I know his face. And it's like, is it slightly not him? Yes. But to strangers on Upwork, if this was his photo on there that looks very professional, clean, good lighting, right? If this guy shows up on a Zoom call with them, are they going to have a jump scare and be like, that's not the same guy in the profile? Like, of course not. It looks very similar. But I went ahead and I took it one step further. because what we want is we want a square photo. And I felt like this background was really dark with his hair. And then also his eye color is just, it's lighter than that. So I just said, this is much cleaner and bright. His eyes are a lighter shade of green blue with orange near the iris. The hair looks too perfect. And so this is a big part with prompting AI. If you're not comfortable or use AI very much, you really just need to talk to it like you are managing an assistant. And you just, the key to it is being able to articulate what it is you want. So when you look at this and you go, that's not quite what I want, you need to get good at being able to name why it's not what you want. So when I look at that, it's, you know, his hair looks too perfect there. His eyes aren't the right color. I don't like the ring light down here. I need it in a 1x1, right? And so when you can call out what the pieces are you want changed, then you just put it in the prompt and you don't have to write fancy or anything. You'll see a lot of my stuff's just like stream of consciousness, misspelled sometimes, like you don't need to be fancy. So I basically just said, his eyes are a different shade, hair looks too perfect. In addition to the teal, there was light purple highlights. Can you also make this a 1x1? So 1x1 is a square. You could also just say square. Can you make this a square? Leave him in the same top, but choose a more complementary, lighter background for the headshot and crop out the ring light. And here's number 2, right? And so we got the lighter eyes, we got purple in the hair, we have the lighter background. So very exciting. And then now I've got a great little headshot that I can use for him. So I downloaded this in your document, in your step-by-step written tutorial. There's a link for you to grab this Canva tutorial or this Canva template. And then this gives you, this is just an additional option, but here in a minute when we get inside and I start walking you through the inside of Upwork, what you're going to see is there are different things you can do to make your profile just have that little bit of an extra edge. And one of the things I've noticed that helps people stand out is some people will use a ring around their photo in a pretty bright color. A lot of people use the green because sometimes on different platforms, the green means that like you're available to do work or like you're available. So if you're familiar with Canva, this should be pretty easy to do. If you're not familiar with Canva, I just want to show you real quick. So I'm going to grab his photo, which I've already pulled in here. So if you are inside Canva, you'll open this, you'll go to uploads, you'll upload your file of the picture, or you can just drag and drop it onto here. Okay. But I'm going to grab his photo and I'm just going to, that's all you do is just drag it. And now he's in here. Okay. And then, so I've got this one and then I've got a second one in here where what it does is it will, this one's meant to, you can use a background remover right there. And then that way you can set this background to any color you want. So you could play around with different colored backgrounds to find something that you like. You can play with gradients. There's like all sorts of options. So that one's kind of cute. I actually like that. So you can look at these 2 options and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to export page number 2. So to export, if you're not familiar with Canva, so we've got 2 different pages here. You'll hit the share button at the top. You're going to hit this download button right here. And then I'm also going to make this a transparent background. You actually don't have to do this. Here, I won't, just because that's a paid account thing. So I'm going to purposely not do that. And then let's hit download. And then this is going to pull in his photo. We're going to go back here. I'm going to, well, yeah. Where'd my photo go? Let me try that one more time. Oh, you know what I think I did? I didn't, this is important. I didn't select the photo that I meant to. So there's 2 here. What you're going to want to do is you want to select the current page that you're on for the one that you want. So I want page 2. So I'm going to hit done. And now I'm going to download. Give it a second here. We're going to come into the photo. And now there he is. Okay. And so you can see this puts a little green thing around him. If you're skilled in Canva, you can play around with this, like giving it a broader, you know, stroke to the outline. I don't want to, this isn't a Canva tutorial, so I don't want to get too heavy into that right now. But you also can play with these colors here. So the nice thing about Canva is it's very point and click. So if you click here, you see colors come up over here. And then you could, make this hot pink if you wanted. You can make it bright yellow. So you could play with different colors. I'm gonna put that back to a bright green. Okay, and so now we have his photo. It's showing you an example of what that's going to look like across different things. We're going to go ahead and attach the photo. Okay, and then I'm going to stop this for a minute, pull this off screen, fill out his personal info, and I'll be back with you here in one sec. And I think this is the very last screen, and then we will be to our profile where we're going to start part 2 of getting your beginner profile ready to go. Okay. Okay, and we're back. So this should be what it looks like. That last screen that I did, I was just putting his address and then he did his phone verification. That was the final screen that we were just on. So once you submit that, it should dump you here into Upwork. And what you're looking at in this view is your profile. You're looking at this profile from the inside view, yours, but you have a button right here where at any time you can click that and you can see what your profile looks to the public. Okay. Now, as I mentioned earlier, where I said that like your education and some of this other stuff like certifications, employment history, it's like way down at the bottom. It is not a primary focus of your profile. The main focus of the profile for people are going to be this headline, your rate, and then the content you have here. Later on, when it makes sense, and depending on which niche you're in, if it makes sense, you'll build out a portfolio, which those will be the main areas that people are looking at. And as we go through this challenge further, you'll see later that really your profile is a very small piece of the equation, and that a lot of jobs are won more so in the proposal that you're going to send them later. Okay. So to wrap up day 1, what we are going to do here now that we have set up our Upwork account is we're going to go ahead and we're going to get your minimum viable profile up. Okay. So as I mentioned before, there's a lot of people that will spend a lot of time going through here. And as you'll see, once you get inside of here, there's a lot of different things you can click on, different settings, different places you can do. And you will waste a ton of time. Okay. So we are going to focus on what's going to get you the most return for your effort and time. And this training, probably by the time we're done, it'll be somewhere between an hour to an hour and a half. And as you've seen, and this is the way how the whole 10-day challenge will be, is that even though it is a longer training, being an hour, hour and a half, everything we're doing is an over the shoulder. You're doing it with me. So that's your total time commitment during the day in order to get the task done. So just follow along with me, and we're going to do this task together. To set up this profile, you'll just do it related to the niche that you're wanting to work in. And then I'm going to use my kiddo as our example. So on our profile here. So inside your email that you get from me, or if you're finding this on Substack and you're not inside the community, it'll be inside the post, the details down below. But as you go through, there will be a link right here for the day 1 task to do your profile research and set up your profile. This leads to a spreadsheet that'll have you make a copy. And there's already going to be stuff inside of here because I wanted you to have a visual. So I went through and did a round of this with copywriting. And I just did this a few days ago. So if you're looking at copywriting as your niche, this work's already done for you. You don't have to do it. I would still recommend doing this exercise though, because it's a really helpful one, and we're going to do it again later as we continue to progress your profile as you grow. Okay. So what we're going to do here, and I've got, again, the instructions on exactly what I want you to do, is we are going to go do a little reconnaissance mission related to your niche so that we can start collecting information on, one, we're going to validate the niche that you're interested in so that you can get a good idea of what sort of rates are people charging, how viable does it seem to be in terms of people who appear to be pretty successful in Upwork in your niche. And then we're also going to look at their headlines, their hooks, and their profiles. Okay. Now, we're not going to spend a ton of time on this because, again, we're just starting. We don't need anything super fancy, but I want you to at least get a lay of the land. So for him, and rather than, you might have interest in a specific specialization already. Right now, I want you to stay higher level. Okay. So even though I think for him, like he would do really well at like brand design, logo design, etc., I'm going to stay high level, and up here in the search bar, you're going to switch this from jobs to talent. Okay. And then we're going to type in the category. So for him, that's graphic design. And it will give you some examples here. So I'll do graphic designer and it's going to search. Here we go. And then once you get to this screen, I want you to go put a few filters on here. So on this sidebar, we're going to scroll down and I want you to open up this job success score. And I want you to put 90 and up for the amount earned. And all of this is in the written as well. Okay. But in the earned amount, I want you to check the one that's $10,000 plus. And then in the hours billed, I want you to do 100 plus hours billed. So what this is going to do is it's going to immediately sort this to people who are established freelancers. So they're they've got a 90 plus job success score, so they're doing a good job at what they do. And they've been around long enough that they're billing hours and amounts. Okay. Now, next, what I want you to do is it's going to bring up, I want you to scroll straight down to the bottom. And the first thing I want you to do is just make sure that you're seeing multiple pages of people, even after we did those filters. If we did those filters and you're not seeing this little caret mark, meaning that there's more than 4 pages worth of freelancers coming back, then that means that you've gone too specialized in your search or the area, any search where you're starting broad, you should see that. But if, let's say, instead I typed in logo design, which there's a lot of logo designers, that one wouldn't be a good example. But if you're like in some super specific niche and you search for it and you come down here and there's not enough pages, like it's not even doing that, then chances are there's not enough demand on the platform for that specific service. So then you want to zoom out a level, okay? But for this, there's plenty here. So what I want you to do is I want you to start at the top and we're just going to start first glancing, and I want you to just get curious. I want you to kind of look at people's profile pictures. I want you to look at their rate. I want you to look at how much they've earned. See if anything stands out to you in terms of like the headlines that they're using. And when I say the headline, this is the headline. So that's her headline. That's that person's headline. This is this person's headline. Okay, so I want you to headline, and then when I refer to the hook, it's this. It's these first 2 sentences that display before you have to click through to get into it. Okay, so we're going to start here, and what I'm doing is I'm looking down, is I'm looking at what's this rate and how much has she earned. I'm not too hung up on the earned. If it's more than 10,000 plus, that's fine because kind of like with me, a lot of people don't use Upwork as their primary place. A lot of times they've gotten a start there and they've since moved off or they're just side hustling. So I'm more interested in what rate are they sustaining while having success on their profile. But I do like looking through on purpose, and we'll see one here in a minute and I'll show you. So yeah, like here's someone who's done over $100,000. They're charging 30 an hour. Here's someone charging 60 and they've done 30. So on purpose right now, I'm just scrolling through, just kind of getting a lay of the land. I'm going to go to the page 2, keep looking here. 37.30. So here's 20 for 50. Here's a girl 75 has made 50,000, 30,000, 70,000. And so again, I'm looking at these rates. Now, here's one of the things that this is a really good example for me to show you the difference between broad services versus specialized. Okay. So as you probably are noticing along with me, I didn't actually go like pre-test this to look. So you and I are seeing this all new together. There are people charging $75, $60, but you probably have noticed a lot of these are more like 15. She's 37, but 20, 15, 1999, 10, 15, right? So these are kind of lower. And that's because graphic design is a pretty heavily influenced space on freelancing sites like Upwork, right? There's a lot of graphic designers. But, and I don't want that to discourage you. If you're interested in graphic design, this is the starting point. But again, I'm going to help you work through to where you're going to specialize over time. And as you specialize, that helps you raise your rate. So what I'm going to do instead here is I'm going to type in, let's do logo. Let's do a brand designer. Okay, and then what I want to show you is, so here's someone charging 75 and they've made a $500,000. Here's someone charging 100, they've made over 30. Here's someone charging 135, they've made over 100K. Now, of course, you're always going to have the people, and this is where a lot of times some of these folks, where I was talking about people who try freelancing and then quit out of frustration, is sometimes they're trying to break in as a specialist in an area rather than starting high level. So people who are trying to come right out the gate and be like, I'm a logo brand designer, and then they come in charging these lower rates, and then they're up against these people who have highly specialized profiles, lots of social proof, they've made lots of money, right? That these folks that are charging less are going to have a harder time standing out applying for those jobs against these folks, right? So we have to start broad and then specialize down. So let's go ahead. I'm going to go back to graphic design if I can spell. Okay. And then from here, what I want you to do is inside this spreadsheet, I'm going to pull this spreadsheet off my screen over onto this other side here. Um, so you won't be able to see that as I'm doing this, but basically on this spreadsheet that you saw, I'm just going to be copy pasting headlines, hooks, profiles, and rates. And I'm going to pick 5 people that are who I think will be someone like the top competition in this space if I were specifically going up head to head in graphic design. Like, who would I be concerned about as far as being able to compete against them, right? Um, so I'm just going to scroll down here. Let's take this fella. So illustration or illustrator. It's gonna, and that happens anytime you click it, it will try and open up this profile, which is fine. So we'll grab that over on my other screen. I'm pasting that in under headline. I'm gonna come back out for a second because what I want to look at is what word does this hook stop at. So it's just a character limit of what it displays. So we want to look at how many lines display. So it stops on the word graphic. I'm gonna click here. We're gonna hit more. And so he actually, it's kind of interesting. Really, this belongs up here in the headline more so, but he's using to get more like keywords and stuff. He's kind of almost making it a sub headline or a secondary headline. I don't see that very often, people doing that. So that's an interesting way of doing it. So I'm going to grab this, his hook, and I'm going to put that again in the spreadsheet under the hook. So I'm just copy pasting these in, guys. And then I'm going to pick up where I just left off and I'm going to grab the rest of what he has inside of his profile. I'm going to put that in the field that says profile. And then lastly, I'm putting in the rate that he's charging. So he's charging 60. Okay. And then we're going to go back and I'm just going to keep on scrolling, looking for another good example of one. All right. So let's do Simone. I'm a little bit surprised. I'm used to being in, that's probably it. I'm used to being in the copywriter space and looking at writing jobs. And these headlines really do heavy duty work for people where it's like, because the headline's really important. You know, the headline and the hook are both really important. And so I'm used to these headlines being like fully optimized and really specific and like really using that real estate. And so I'm just surprised to see like so many that are just like graphic designer, like see all these say graphic designer and it's like, wait, what? So okay, let me get where was I just at here? All right. So let's look at here. So it stops on the word worked. So I'm gonna grab this to the word worked. That is her hook. And then we're gonna grab the rest of her profile. And for those of you who've chosen writing as your category, you're going to see what I'm talking about when you get in. Even these profiles are very short compared to what I'm used to, which is fine, but it's different than, and it's interesting to me seeing this now from like the graphic design side, like how different these profiles potentially are between people. So here's, we've done 2 now. I want to keep going. Let's look here. So another one with graphic designer as so it ended on high quality. Uh, put her title in as graphic designer. And that's the whole profile here. So let's do high quality. So the good news too, guys, is that because my specialization happens to be in sales copywriting, that's an extra benefit that you're going to get through the prompts and the training that I do with you guys, is it's going to be really easy for you guys to stand out against a lot of other people's profiles. Um, because you're going to use best practices when it comes to sales copywriting, and that's going to help you really stand out. And you're going to see even this beginner profile that we're getting ready to do is going to stand out compared to some of these ones that you may be looking at. And I'm sure, I haven't gone through and looked at like, okay, what did the engineering and architecture ones look like, or IT and networking, right? So this is right now we're just looking at graphic design. I have a lot of knowledge in the writing, but I'm sure that all of these, the way how those profiles show up for your top performers look very different from industry to industry. But sales copywriting, no matter which industry you're in, will always be, it will apply no matter which one you're in, and it will help you stand out. Okay. So again, I'm just scrolling down, looking for kind of the outliers, people that are charging a higher rate, also have earned a decent amount. Another one, just graphic designer. It's so funny to me. Um, all right, so we're gonna put graphic designer. And then uh his stopped on finding a I like it. There we go, finding a. All right, so there's his hook. I'm gonna put that in. We're on profile 4, so we're almost there. And then as I'm going through and doing this, just listen to me and you be going through and doing this for yourself, in your niche, and filling out your little spreadsheet. You don't need to just like sit and watch me do this. Um, but I want to be able to demonstrate live what we're going to do next, which is why I'm taking the time to go through and do these live with you. So, um, 25, 55. We just saw him. And then here's Miss Zoe. Yeah, let's do her. So passionate about another graphic designer one. It's very funny. Okay. And if you have open that spreadsheet, you'll see, because I said I did the writing one as an example. So like just look at the difference in the headlines for the writers versus the headlines that we have over here in the graphic designers. And you'll see just from that, like the difference. It's just interesting how different it is. All right. So in this one, passionate about. So passionate about, here's the hook. And then here's, I'm going to expand this. So we're going to hit more so I can grab the rest of her profile. The other thing that's really interesting to me, I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'm going to do it anyway, just because now that you've seen several of these, um, I think later on, we're not going to get too far off track because on this, again, we're doing a beginner profile, but let's just type in copywriter. And this would be, even if you're not going to do this area, one other note too, anytime you switch your search terms, you lose all the settings that we did here. So I'm going to come back and do 90, 10K, and 100 hours. Okay. Um, but what's interesting to me is one, just kind of look at these headlines, but two, I'm just going to click in a couple real quick to see if I can show you. Yeah, is like even just like the way how the profiles are like laid out and communicated, like using emojis, like putting spaces in between to make it highly readable, taking them through kind of more like a story. Looking at these sorts of profiles will give you a really good idea of kind of almost best case, or a lot of the profiles I was seeing in the graphic designers were more just like a paragraph or two. And if you look at a lot of these, yeah, like see how nice that looks and how organized, and it's almost like its own little sales page. So sometime later, as you continue to go, I would encourage you to go peek through, even if it's not the niche you're going to be in, go look through copywriter profiles, just to start to get a feel for like how this might look. Okay. But what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to take our spreadsheet that we just did, pull it back over here so that you can see it. Okay, And then now I've got this set up with our folks here. Okay. What we're going to do, I fibbed. I'm going to pull it back over onto my other screen again for a second because we're going to hop back into your written tutorial. And down here, what I want you to do is you've gone through this part, you've done the research, you've pulled it into the spreadsheet. Now we're going to take this into AI, and I have prompts already ready for you. Okay. So you're just going to grab this first prompt. I'm going to, Claude is my favorite to use, but one of the things I like to do sometimes is I'll just open up Claude, ChatGPT, and Perplexity, and then all three of those have free versions that you can use. And my, I lost, there we go. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna pop this prompt in. And then you're going to where you see these things, this is where you need to fill in information, okay? So I'm new to Upwork. I'm standing up a beginner profile. I'm interested in offering services in the graphic design space. I don't yet have proven experience on the platform. And then here, if you do have relevant experience that you want to share or anything that you feel would be relevant. So even if you don't have maybe existing graphic design experience, but you're highly creative, you love to do art, like if there are things there that you want to mention that you want pulled into your profile, you can put this here. And even though my kiddo has experience in this, I'm going to purposely leave it out because I know that many of you may be looking to transfer into a new area than what you normally do. So I'm going to leave it out on purpose. And I'm going to say, I've researched the 5 top profiles in my space. Here are the headlines, opening hooks, and full profiles. Please review these and create a hypothesis as to why these people are landing jobs with these profiles. What common themes do you see? Now, with this one, like I said, I'm kind of interested to see how this is going to play out just because 4 out of the 5 profiles just had a title of graphic designer. And then several of the like the content, the body of the profiles were pretty short, and a lot of the hooks didn't look like they were necessarily um super intentional in like using that space the way how I'm used to seeing it used on the copywriting side. So let's see what it says here. So what I did was I took the spreadsheet. Let me pull this over in case some folks need this tip. So inside the spreadsheet, if you click this little gray button at the top, it will highlight the entire thing. Okay, so click that. Control C, and that will copy your entire spreadsheet. And then all I did was inside my AI window, I Control V, or you can right click, copy, right click, paste, and then it pasted it right down here. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and hit send. And then sometimes what I'll do is while it's pulling that out, I'll just pop it into other engines as well, just to see what it says. And so all I'm doing is copying and pasting from the very first one that I wrote my answers in. I'm grabbing it from there and then just pasting this in, and let's see what all of them say. Okay, so here, this is giving, I'm not going to read this all to you guys, but you'll have your own version of this, okay? But basically, the main reason we're doing this is AI, everything that comes up above it becomes a reference point and what it does below it. So the more you get it to talk about best practices or put in like themes or different things that, you know, are helping these things be successful, it now has that information up above the stream of conversation you're having, that it will continue to reference that as it creates more stuff, especially where later we're going to directly reference it and tell them to incorporate some of these aspects into it. Okay. So, so for right now, I'm going to just leave that here and we're going to go back to prompt number 2. And in prompt number 2, it says, after it responds, follow up with this one. So now, what may be surprising for some of you guys who maybe use AI is you might think that the whole reason we were collecting those was so that we can extract the best parts and then copy it to make our own. And we're going to actually do pretty much the opposite. Okay. So what we're going to do here is here's the next prompt. So perfect. My goal is to disrupt someone's attention while scrolling and stand out among profiles like these. So I don't want my headline or hook to mirror theirs, but rather stand out in a unique and unexpected way that hijacks attention and earns the click through to my profile. I want you to create me 10 headline hook combos to choose from using a variety of tactics like humor, curiosity, stats, etc. Remember, the idea here is to be different from the examples I showed you while still competitive despite my lack of platform success yet. Okay, so we're going to submit this. I'm going to copy it too so we can pop it in the other ones as well. So here's that one. I'm going to pop this into Perplexity and I'm going to pop this into ChatGPT. You don't have to do three of them. One of them will be fine. I just like having options to choose from. So now, some of the things that AI is going to come up with are going to be things that won't make sense for you. So, like the graphic designer who solved a $50,000 brand problem. Like, right, if you're brand new, you haven't done that. Um, Not your typical I make things pretty designer. Think of me as your design wingman, not your design vendor. I turn down more projects than I accept, and here's why. So they're using curiosity there. Designs that generated 327% more clicks without looking clickbaity. Is your current design actually costing you customers? Questions are always good. Putting things in quotes also works really well. Using curiosity and humor works well. Your design shouldn't just look good, it should make you money. Like, so some of these, like that one's perfect for a beginner, right? You don't have to, you're not making any claim about what you've done or results, and that would stand out as something different among, and that's part of what we were looking at when we were looking inside of, let me go back to graphic designers, is we want to think about this through the lens of if someone is scrolling and they're seeing, so like here's someone who made more use of their headline here, right? Like their YouTube thumbnail designer, blah, blah, but like graphic designer, but here's a good one, voted top 10. And a lot of times you'll see this, people who use these lines and then they'll stack information. Yeah, here's another one doing that. I wonder if it's 'cause I did no, I did do graphic designers again. Give me one sec. 10K, 100 hours, 90 plus. Um, but yeah, like graphic designer, senior graphic designer. And so you're going to look at these through the lens of which of these would stand out in a good way that would be disruptive to the person's scroll, right? And so what happens when you mix fresh eyes with design passion? Let's find out. This one's cute, right? This is a humor one. Zero Upwork reviews, 100% determined to wow you, right? So I want you to look at those, and it really, for each person, this is going to be really unique. You need to look at them and figure out which ones, like to me, that one immediately was like, I love that one. And so you should have a moment like that. You're looking for the like, okay, yeah, like that would win me over if I was looking at it. Like it's very cute. And that you're even like this person's like making fun of the fact that like I get it, I'm a beginner, but like take a chance on me. Um, Dare to hire a newbie, let me prove you right. So anyway, so what I want you to do is I want you to look through. I'm going to go ahead and grab this one just 'cause I thought that one was cute. Now I'm going to go into River's profile here. So to get back to your profile, usually in Upwork, there's a lot of different ways you can get to places, but it's for me, I just go here and then to your profile. And next, what I'm going to do is right here's the headline. So I'm going to edit this. Okay, it won't let me use a percent sign. So I'm just going to type in 100% determined to wow you. Okay. And then let's just peek through because I'm going to have to look at hooks as well. So this delay here, I'm using Zoom. And if you've ever used it, there's a black bar that comes over your tabs. It's very annoying. But I want to get back to Claude. So let's strategic problem solver R is the only designer who starts with why not instead of what. So the other thing I want to look at here are hooks. So your hook is really important. I would say 80% of your profile success comes just from the headline and hook, because just like when you search something on Google or you're scrolling something on social media, the whole key of what you're trying to do is one, grab that person's attention, earn their attention, and then two, you want them to click through. And so, as you saw, that's part of why I had you do this research project. When you are searching and looking through that list, the only thing you're getting to see about that person is like their photo, their stats, and then what's the headline and the hook. So we got to make those work overtime, and they matter way more than anything else we put in your profile. Okay. So what I'm doing when I'm evaluating these hooks is this enough that I think that it gives a person a compelling enough reason or leaves them curious enough or wondering enough, interested enough to click through. Okay. So while others debate pixels, I'm busy saving my clients money. The 50K brand. Okay. So that one doesn't apply, right? The 50K. Let's skip the part where I tell you about tell you I'm passionate about design. I am, or that I know Adobe Suite. I do. Instead, let's talk about why your project is still sitting in your someday folder and how I'm going to help you finally check it off your list with results that actually work. That's a strong one, right? Like that's a really good one. Um, Also, it's unique in how it's written compared to how someone normally just be like, I love design and I'm, certified in Adobe Illustrator, right? This is a much more interesting way to tell that story creatively. And you are bringing forward a promise of value to them. So promises of value are very important in your hook. So you want to make it about them. What's in it for them, right? So less about you, more about how are they going to benefit from working with you. So talking about knowing that they have projects that they've been meaning to do and you're finally going to help them get it off their list is a promise of value that matters to them, right? And then with results that actually work. Also, promise of value that matters to them. So this one's a really strong one. I'm just going to look at, again, I don't want to waste too much of your guys' time reading through every single one of these. If I were doing this myself, I would take the time to read through them to pick what I think are the best ones, but I also don't want you to spend hours on this, okay? So that's like, don't overthink this. This is version 1.0 of your profile, and we are going to keep on upgrading it and upgrading it and upgrading it as you go. Most designers will sell you a logo. I'll help you land the client. In the noisy world of freelance design, I've built my approach around one principle. Your success is my portfolio. Let's make something that works, not something that just looks good in my collection. Another strong one. Um, I'm just kind of reading through a few of these. Yes, I geek out over kerning and color theory, but what really gets me excited, seeing analytics after design goes live, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So I'm gonna go back to this part. And if you're a beginner, um, what you can do is you can always tweak these two. You don't have to lift them exactly as they are. So if you're a beginner and you like something 90%, but a piece of it doesn't feel true, like, so let's say you like this one, but like you don't know Adobe Suite, that's fine. What you can do is just grab this, and AI, a big part of AI is just talking to it, just like you would an assistant. And so you just need to be able to name what it is you don't like about it. So with this, we're going to tell it, I love this hook, but I am a beginner and don't yet have Adobe Suite experience. I'm more of a Canva gal. How can this be reworked? Okay. And then it will rewrite it for you. And so then that way you still get this. Okay, and so then or that I know all the industry is still learning. I don't love that because it's immediately like devaluing what you're bringing to the table. So, and so again, that's me naming what it is I don't like about it. So now I'm going to say like this is okay, but I feel like this is devaluing what I can bring to the table, um, with saying things like still learning. Can you give me 5 options to choose from? I do like to ask it to give me multiple options because usually when it just gives you one like that, chances are it's not going to be what you want. But when you ask it to give you multiple, 5 usually seems to be pretty good. If you do like 10, it can get kind of overwhelming with your choices. So let's skip the part where I list my design credentials and get to what matters. Your project is still sitting in your someday folder, and I'm here to help you check it off your list. I bring Canva mastery, fresh perspectives, and problem-solving approach. And this is a good example of, again, to where if you don't have the exact experience yet, this is where you can bring in more like personality attributes, where I was saying before, like maybe you're highly creative or saying like you're a problem solver, right? So you can bring forward personality aspects, adjacent experiences and skills and other jobs in order to position yourself to sound more credible in the space, even though you're still a beginner. Does that make sense? And then, while others are busy telling you about their decades of experience with every design tool they've ever created, I'm focused on what matters most, getting your project from concept to completion with efficiency and impact. I've mastered Canva's capabilities to deliver. Okay, and so this one, I think that is a good hook. I wouldn't even bring this in at that point because now all you're doing, the moment you mention Canva, you're kind of limiting the scope of people where if people maybe wanted Adobe or something else, they might skip it. So that's a pretty good one if you were like a beginner. Okay. And then I won't bore you with a list of design software, industry jargon that means nothing to your bottom line. So again, I like how this is shifting the focus to the reader and about them rather than about you, rather than drowning in tech specs about my blah, blah, blah. Okay, so the main point here was I wanted to show you how, if you're a beginner, how you can use AI to reprompt it in order to help you adjust this, okay? You may have to go back and forth a little bit to get it with something that feels good. But again, this is version 1.0, so don't go through 50 million different versions. But for him, I'm going to go ahead and use this one. And, oh, I already had put it in. I'm going to save that. And then what I want to do right now is I'm going to hit the public view. And I want to see how much of that hook shows up. And all of it does, it looks like, which is amazing. So you'll know when the more button starts to come in. Okay. So from here, we're going to go back to our document. And we're going to say, awesome, I love this one. We're going to put in your headline and hook. And then we're going to go back to the hypothesis. So again, we're referencing up above what they've already filled out. And then we're going to tell it, use that hypothesis and now finish out the rest of the profile. Okay, so what we're going to do next is we're going to grab the last of these prompts, which is where you're going to grab your headline and your hook. And we're going to go back into here. I'm going to grab the headline and the hook. I just did the same thing with my Zoom bar. It's so annoying. There we go. All right. And then we're going to paste our headline and hook in here. So there's our headline. There's our hook. So awesome. I love this one. Now, can you please go back to your original hypothesis on why these other platforms are performing well and create the rest of my beginner profile that will convert and land me new clients? Okay. Some of these prompts, as I'm doing them, by the time it hits your inbox, they might be slightly tweaked because, like right now, as I read that, I'm wanting to add in, please use a casual. Did I already do that one in my upper prompts? Sorry, guys, give me one sec here. I'm surprised I didn't do that because this is kind of like a standard that I use in almost all my prompts. So please use a casual but professional tone of voice, like how you'd speak to a coworker at lunch, and use simple everyday language. So I might tweak these prompts a little bit for you guys just to help you get the output that you want. But for some of you, you might want it depends on, what you're offering and your personality, but you can always prompt AI to write in a particular manner or style. Okay. So I find that this is the more humanizing we can make it sound. And again, in future trainings, I will go into this stuff a lot more. But for right now, we're just doing a beginner profile. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that. I'm going to grab it so we can pop it into the other two. And let's go back to Claude. All right, so why hire me when I'm new here? Good question. While I'm building my Upwork profiles, here's what I bring to the table: exceptional communication, Canva mastery, So that's it's pulling that. So remember how I said how it looks at everything up above it? So because I prompted it earlier and said, let's make it Canva instead, now it's doing Canva. Obviously, as I finish up Rivers, I would replace that with the Adobe Suite. He's like certified in Adobe. So if you have that sort of experience, you obviously want to highlight that where you have relevant experience. And so again, if you overall like the look of this profile, then instead you would just use prompting to help you clean up these things. So you could be like, hey, like in this section, can we change this to be about that I have experience in Adobe Suite and I'm certified in it, right? And you don't have to give it, it will fill in the blanks. It will give you the rest of your copy. So you just need to tell it high level, write a piece about this and make sure you mention this part, right? If you look at this and you're like, oh, maybe I'm not the best at like my attention to detail, right? Then what you can do is grab this and then here, I'll even just show you. So let's put this down here and say, can you give me 5 alternatives to this bullet point? Attention to detail is not one of my strongest suits. Okay, and so now it's giving you more options to consider, and you can be like, you know what, like I am really good at the big picture, or I'm really good at problem solving, and then you just swap it out, right? So you're looking for a profile when you do this, and we can peek at these other ones about me. You want your brand to look sharp, fresh, professional. Here's what you can expect. Quick replies, no design jargon, real collaboration, a fresh perspective, what I can do for you. So again, this is listing what sort of services you might want to do within graphic design. So if you know that you have interest in specific things, you can list it there. Okay. And then let's peek over at this one. So here's what I bring to the table. And this is just personal preference. I do not like ChatGPT's outputs typically. I feel like you have to beat on it really hard to get it to give outputs the way how I would naturally write something. I feel like both Perplexity, which Perplexity is more of a search engine if you're not familiar with Perplexity. It's connected to the internet. It's meant to be used as a search engine. It will source, it'll give you like sources from the web, but ironically, it does really good copywriting. So I use it sometimes just to like have it do it. It's also really great at math and formulas, FYI, compared to the other ones. So Perplexity and Claude are more my go-tos. Claude's my favorite. So, and I do like this. So again, this is listing what sort of stuff it likes to design. It talks about how the process will work and then a first time deal, right? So what you're going to do is you're going to pick your favorite one. I actually think it's like I like a mix between these two. I'm just going to grab this one. Okay, so I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go into his profile again. So up here, right now we're in that public view. So I'm going to come here. We're going to go to your profile. We're going to edit this part because we're doing the profile section. And we're going to paste. Now, one of the things that's pretty annoying is that Upwork does not have any formatting options, which is why you see people use like emojis and different characters. Um, so you're going to want to come through and you can't bold either. So we've got to use spacing to our advantage. So I'm going to put spaces in between here. And you can do things to make it stand out if you wanted to. So like you could make those all caps so that it's more like it doesn't fit like it does. What am I looking? Words. So that it stands out even though you can't bold it. Those are the words I was looking for. Canva mastery. I think if I, or at least they used to have fresh perspective. Um, they used to have a limit on keeping people from like overusing um caps. So I would use it sparingly, but like me just doing that there, that won't hurt it, I don't think. You also can let's just type in Emojipedia. You can go to a site like this and you can grab emojis. So I'm going to do the green check mark, which is right here. I copy it and then I'm going to put these here. So again, just visually, this is helping us make this stand out a bit, right? And then my design sweet spots. Oh, let me do this one. On time delivery. All right, and then it's got that, and then a first timer deal. Let's see. Since I'm new, I'm offering competitive rates for first clients. You'll get quality design at a value price. Perfect. So, and you always want to double check whatever AI has put out because sometimes it will just make up stuff. Like, so it'll be like, do this and I'm going to give you a free logo design, and it's like, so you want to make sure you actually read what it says so you know what it is that you're promising in your profile. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to give you guys just a little sneak peek. We'll get into this in way more detail later. But since I do use AI very heavily in the copywriting stuff that I do, I'm going to show you a process that I call quilting, which is how I think is the best way to use AI. So you have multiple different outputs and you're quilting together, you're pulling the best pieces in order to incorporate to make one final piece that you like the most, rather than just trying to take an output and paste it in. So I started with this one because this one generally is the one that I liked more, but there were aspects in the perplexity one that I also liked. So I wanted to just peek at this one. Yeah, I liked this part. And then let me see here. I like to end it on in the marketing world they call it a CTA. CTA stands for a call to action. So I like leaving the end of any profile with a final call to action. So that's what this one's saying. If you're ready to get started, hit the invite button and let's get started. So I'm just going to grab that and I'm going to pop that. And it's like this is a CTA too, but it's real. We're not telling them what specific action to take. We're just saying let's chat, right? So instead, I like that this one's more action oriented. I'm going to leave that shorter one here and put that there. So hit the invite button. So we're giving them a specific action to take. And if you're listening to this and feeling like you have to do this absolutely the exact same way I'm doing, you don't, okay? The hook at the top, the headline at the top, those are the most important pieces. Most important. Once you get that, what you put here, we're going to replace it all within probably your first month once you get going. So I don't want you to waste a bunch of time on this. I really mean that. I want you to hear me when I say that. Don't waste a bunch of time on this. And most clients aren't even going to be going through your full profile. This matters more for people where you show up and search for them. When you apply for jobs, your proposal is the main thing they're seeing. And when they're scrolling, they're seeing it just like a search. And a lot of times from the proposal is where they're deciding if they're going to work with you. They're not even looking into your profile. They've seen a little snippet of your profile where they show where they feature your stats, they feature your hook and your headline, but they're in your profile and then they're hitting a button from the profile to message you, or not the profile, your proposal. So again, don't overcomplicate this, okay? You can play around with different emojis. Again, I'm just going to kind of, for the sake of breaking these things out, um, if it were me, I would do, what is that called? You'd think it was just number one, but it's this like digit number. So I'm going to grab number one here. I'm going to put that one in for the discovery. Sometimes if you scroll down, the other ones are there, but let's do digit number two. Digit number three. And I'll put a link to Emojipedia inside your written tutorial. So if you want to grab these, you can to use on your own profile. You also can just prompt AI and say, can you add emojis? Because Upwork doesn't allow formatting, right? And then it would go through and format. That probably would have been an easier way for me to show you how to do this. All right. And then this part, I'm gonna put all caps. So the first timer deal. And then I'm just gonna hop back here one more time. I liked this opening too. Now I'm just gonna look at how that compares to what we've already got. Okay, so as we said earlier when we looked at it, because I wasn't seeing the more yet, it means that whatever comes after this will probably also show up partially in my hook. So you want whatever's going to come next to serve to serve the best purpose for the hook. So that's where I'm trying to decide if I want to put this here. So whether or not do I want hi, I'm River, your soon to be favorite graphic artist, or do I want why hire me when I'm new? So I think I'm more interested in that being part of the potential hook than that. And then, so I'm River. And then this is just a nice little intro, right? And again, this is more about them. So taking stuff off their plate. That's where I come in. I may be new to Upwork, but I'm not new to solving design problems. Um, and then why hire me? And then it goes through all that stuff. So this is a great beginner profile. Okay, so I'm gonna hit save. And this profile, even though I'm referring to it, so you can see right now, so now this is what shows as his hook. Okay. And so I want you to, well, let's make sure on the public view it also looks that way. Yep. So on the public view now, you can see that this is the headline, this is the hook, and he already is going to be heads and shoulders above a lot of the graphic design profiles that are out there, and this is just the beginner one. So that's the exciting part, okay? So in your written tutorial, again, you're going to have the links to everything that we just went through, all the prompts we just went through. And then I want to go through this part real quick. So this graphic is from Upwork. You can go to the link right here. But what I want you to do, so now that we've done the major part I wanted to do. We did the initial setup and you've got your minimum viable profile. So the last part you're going to do is make sure that your profile gets to 100% complete. And this is the equation to get there. Okay. So you need to have your profile photo, which we have on this one. You need the profile overview, which is the description that we just did, where the hook and the rest of the profile was. So that's done. At least one employment history. If you remember, we did three, so that's done. And at least one skill tag. We did three, so that's done. So he's already at 50%. So now you hop over here and you have a menu of options that are way more than 50% that you get to pick and choose in order to get your profile to the full 100%. So, portfolio items, we're not doing it. So, take that off the list. We're not doing it right now. Additional employment history up to 20% more if you do two more listings, which is why I said if you can, make it three. So we did on his, so now we're up to 70, right? Additional tags, we did that. We took up to three, so we're up to 80. And then education, if you remember, I said if you can do two, that will get you. That was the reason why I was saying if you can do two, do two, because if you do two, you max it out to 20. So he is at 100. Okay. So the way how I showed you through this walkthrough, if you were able to do exactly as I showed you, if you also had at least three employment listings, if you also had at least two education listings, and if you put in at least three skill tags, you will be at 100 as well at this point and you're done. But if, let's say, you had one education and maybe you had like one or two employment, then you're going to want to look at things like recording a profile video and putting that on there. You can link to a social media account and you can get an extra 10%. If you have certifications, you can add at least two and get 10 more percent. And then there's a section in the bottom called other experience. It's do do do. I'm in the public view. Give me one sec. If you scroll down, yeah, there's this other experiences. And then this is like open-ended. So you can really use this if you need the extra points to just think of anything that could be semi-related. It could be that you designed your grandma's newsletter for something. I don't care. And use AI to be like, hey, I need to turn this into a like a forward facing positive thing on Upwork where I'm trying to be a graphic designer and I want to list this as another experience. Here's what I did. Here's the details. Can you write me a title and a description for it? That's it. And so as long as it's in here, that will get you the points. So you can use that as a place to get 5 more points there. So the goal here is to try and get your account up to that 100%. So that's your task for today is to finish up, do your initial setup, set up the profile, and get that profile to 100%. The reason why you care, I'm going to skip past this, we'll come back. The reason you care about this is that the Rising Talent badge is the very first badge that you can earn on Upwork. It's not a guarantee. The other ones are very clear cut. Like you meet these criteria, you get it. Rising badge is the only one that's more subjective. So they award it based on criteria that they have in the background. And in some cases, you could not have even landed your first job and they'll give you a rising talent badge just if you have like the education and certifications and you happen to be in an area where they need more freelancers in that space. So if it's an area, just like I said before, where they're charging between 0 to 15 in order to deal with jobs where they don't have enough freelancers, if you're in one of those unique spaces, you might get a rising talent without having done much of anything other than just stood up your profile. So that might happen for some of you. But for other people, if you're in a more, like if you're doing customer service, you're doing writing, you're doing graphic design, right? Those are very common freelance areas. Then in those cases, you're going to need to start getting your jobs. It's going to have to do with the reviews that you have coming in. It has to do with how active you're being on the platform and applying for jobs. And so it tells you down here, like complete your jobs on time, maintain a 100% complete profile, keep your availability status updated, regularly submit proposals, which you'll be doing that during this challenge, adhere to terms of service, submit a proposal within the last 30 days, have a job success score of at least 90, but if you've earned it, because you can still get rising talent even before you have a job success score. The job success score usually happens in the first couple of weeks once you start landing jobs, and you can't have any holds on your account. But Upwork is the one that initiates that, and they send it to you. So my goal for all of you is to put you in the best position to potentially earn that rising talent badge. And so it's critical that you have that 100% complete profile because that will keep you from getting it once you qualify on the system end. Okay. So go through this part, make sure you got 100% profile. And then this section here is just going through reminding you again, have your clean profile. Here's that Canva template I showed you. Here are some of the services that I have tried before myself in the past. So I can vouch for them as being good headshot places, hourly rate, employment history, all the things we've already gone through, right, guys? So then the last part is down here on the bottom. I talk about what's coming up tomorrow, which we're going to go through Upwork 101. And then I'm also going to talk about stuff like legal, banking, tax considerations, insurance, all those questions that people have when it comes to freelancing. We're going to touch on that kind of on a high level. And then we're more so going to jump into like Upwork 101 and getting it ready for us to start applying for jobs. Okay. And then it has a checklist for you. So you'll have a little checklist. I got to think through how that's going to look on Substack when I put it through, but you'll have a little checklist of things for you to make sure that you've done all the things for day one. And that concludes our day one of 10 days to paid. So tomorrow should be a much shorter day. It's more informational. And then day 3, when we hit that, that is where we are going to start doing your proposals and applying for your first job. So we're getting into it fast. As I mentioned in the introduction video, let me go ahead and stop sharing this so I can talk to you directly. Okay. So as I mentioned in the introduction video, if you want to continue this challenge, so if you have gone through, you did all the stuff today, you are ready and excited to start applying for jobs, The rest of this challenge, day 2 through 10, is not going to come into your inbox like this one did through Substack. Okay. I don't want to flood people's inboxes with 10 consecutive days of trainings that they may or may not want, or they may not be ready for. You can do this challenge at any time. When you are ready to do the challenge, there is a link that you're going to see right below this video on Substack for you to opt in to the 10 days to paid challenge. When you do that, whenever you sign up, so if you do it today, that means that day 2 will end up in your inbox tomorrow. Okay. And then day 3, day 4, day 5. So as soon as you sign up, expect to see the next day's training, starting with day 2 of the challenge, in your inbox, that I'm going to send to you directly rather than it coming out through Substack. So this is the only one you're going to see as the Tuesday training, my weekly training that I do. And then next week, there will not be a weekly training because we will still be in the midst of 10 days to paid. Okay. I may put out just a more, like almost like a blog. It may put out like an informational, helpful thing for beginners, but it won't be a dedicated training because this is a really heavy lift for me at the moment, trying to record these and get these out 10 days in a row while also still working with my one-on-one clients. So that's the plan. I hope this was helpful. I'm so excited. If it was, could you leave a comment or drop it in the group chat? But just let me know. I'd really love to see your guys' beginner profiles. So if you get your setup, can you drop a link to it, the public view? So you just go to that public view, grab the URL, drop it in our group chat. I want to be able to look at it. Maybe I can give you some helpful tips on things that I might tweak. But again, I really want to model for you guys that we don't want to overthink it too much. So I'm not going to do like full copy reviews and be like, oh, let's, make it more this and that. As you progress and as you get more specialized and you have to be more competitive, I will definitely help with those things as we move through it. But I would love to see the beginner profiles and just make sure that the way how I'm training this and the way we're doing the prompts are yielding good results for you guys as far as the outputs you're getting. If you have questions, drop those in the group chat as well. And for those of you continuing on with the challenge, I will see you in your inbox tomorrow. Have a great day. All right, bye guys.